for all of us. It's about predicting where the consumer is going and getting half of it right.
One of the things we want to do is create ads that don't suck.
Embracing change creates great possibility.
I'm Alan Hart, and this is Marketing Today.
Today on the show, I've got Amanda Tolleson. She's the Chief Marketing Officer at WeightWatchers, where she's responsible for leading the company's global marketing strategy across performance marketing, brand marketing, and creative. Amanda has 20 years of experience building brands focused on creating unique value for consumers. Prior to WeightWatchers, she was Chief Customer Officer at Maisonette, a curated baby and kids marketplace. And prior to Maisonette, she was the Chief Customer Officer at Birtchbox, overseeing marketing, creative, product, and technology. Her deep focus on customer insights aligned that company around reaching its target customer. And on the show today, we talk about her transition to WeightWatchers, how she's revitalizing a 60-year-old established brand, tapping into its founder roots, and where she's focused in terms of their target customer and how she's bringing the marketing to life. I hope you enjoy this conversation with Amanda Tolleson. Well, Amanda, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
No, I'm really excited to talk about WeightWatchers, and we'll get there, I promise. But I have to hear this story about you and a runaway horse. Tell me more about this.
Yes, this is always my fun fact about me that I trot out for people. So I had the amazing opportunity in business school. As often happens, right? So many people from all over the world kind of come to business school. So a trip organized to go to Mongolia by a classmate, and we really were getting the off the typical tour experience. So part of it was going to the beautiful Gobi Desert there, and we were visiting with some locals who are well known for their horses and their horsemanship, and later found out for the horse racing, but that comes later. So one of the activities was to ride the horses. It's pretty common. In retrospect, it did seem a little strange that there was only one horse for our group. But at the time, I volunteered to be the first because I had some experience riding as a kid. And I say that very loosely, as in I went to summer camps riding horses. Not that I was kind of doing dressage riding as a young child. So I feel like I had a little overconfidence there. So the first thing I noticed was the saddle was really different. It was kind of wooden and really high stirrups, almost like jockeys. But I thought, I can do this. So I got up, I'm waving to everyone. We go off at a little trot, and just immediately the horse grabs the bit and just starts galloping into the desert. And I mean like into the desert, as in there's literally nothing else in front. Just imagine the movie, the horizon you're galloping into. I'm trying all the tricks I knew as a 10-year-old to stop this horse, and nothing's happening. So I'm just like, either I'm going to gallop across the Gobi Desert or I'm going to jump off this horse. So I jumped off the horse. By some miracle, galloping horse, by some miracle, I landed and rolled and I didn't hurt myself at all. I don't know how that happened. The horse keeps going, no concern for me. And I'm just standing there, I'm looking around, I see some goats. At that point, I'm just like, I'm sure someone will come for the goats at some point, And then over the horizon, I see kind of all these guys on like horses and motorcycles coming to check on me. And my friend said, as soon as the horse galloped out, they were all kind of freaking out and kind of sent the cavalry out. But where the story we found out later was that normally they have these nice placid tourist horses for us to ride, but they had been lost in a rainstorm the night before, and they didn't want to cancel on us. So it was like a Mongolian racehorse they put me on. And I'm pretty sure they won't ever make that switch again. And no one else in my group obviously did any horseback riding. But that is my jumped off a horse in the Mongolian desert story.
That's amazing. I'm glad you didn't get hurt. What was it? It must be sand. So maybe that helped pushing the fall.
I think the biggest, in retrospect, you're not thinking about it at the time, it was just pure adrenaline. It was like if my foot had gotten caught in the stirrup or something.
Gosh. Oh, yeah.
But I don't know how I didn't hurt myself, but it's, not good luck used up there.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Well, I don't even know how to transition from that, but we will. We will transition. So I'd love, so you're the Chief Marketing Officer at WeightWatchers. Where did you get your start beyond post-business school and this racehorse experience.
Yes.
Where did you go, and kind of what were the stops along the way?
Yeah. Well, obviously, top of my resume is the Mongolian racehorse story,
You
which really
should be.
gets me in the door. So yeah, the path to CMO of WeightWatchers, and really CMO at all, is like wasn't a fully planned path, I guess I'll say. Like a good friend of mine who was the head of people at Birchbox. I was at Birchbox after business school. I guess I should start. I was at brand consulting. That was kind of had been my experience prior. I made the jump to operational side with Birchbox, the kind of beauty subscription startup, and as head of brand initially. And a good friend of mine there, who was head of people, once described two ways people approach their careers. You either approach it as a ladder or a jungle gym. And really, that always stuck with me because really, I have a kind of visceral anti-reaction to the latter. I realized I just like I've never been able to have that. Oh, this is where I want to be in 5 years, and I'm going to like make it happen. I really enjoy the more jungle gym experience where you're going forward, but you're also going sideways, and you don't know where that kind of forward is necessarily going to take you. But you're excited by just kind of the moving forward and the skill building and the growth opportunities. So yeah, I didn't have a master plan to become a public company CMO or even a CMO or even to be in marketing. I started in psychology, fell into marketing. But yeah, the path at CMO was at Birchbox. I was head of brand, marketing, loving it. And I actually, a year before I became the CMO at Birchbox, I had actually told people I would never want to be a CMO. This is a true story. Words out of my mouth. I was like, I'll never want to be a CMO because I loved what I did. I love brand. I love consumer research. I love digging into the meaningful human connections we can make with consumers. And I couldn't imagine taking on a broader scope, or I wouldn't be doing as much of that day to day. So how it happened was, though, the CMO at the time, Dina Bari, who's amazing, she's now the CMO at StockX, left, and we were interviewing candidates who were great and really talented. But in my jungle gym mentality, I was like interviewing them and thinking, well, I know this business really well. I know marketing. I think I can create value. And like, this is, I think it's like, should I put my hat in the ring? It wasn't something I had planned. It was kind of fortuitous moment. And I do that. I threw my hat in the ring and got the role, and turned out that I really enjoyed it. I wasn't doing, obviously brand was part of it, but taking on performance and comms and PR, and what I kind of lost in being able as deep on kind of the brand part as I had been before was that I learned I really enjoyed the kind of the team growth and management aspects of it, which really tie back to my psychology background. And how do you really build an organization that is growing people, that where everyone can thrive, that is putting people in the right roles based on their skill set and where they want to be, that I hadn't even entertained could be something I would enjoy. So kind of fast forward similarly, so kind of like accidentally ending up in the CMO role and finding out I enjoyed it. So after Birchbox, I decided to challenge myself further, and I went to early stage to see what was that. So I went to Maisonette. It was at the time a Series A children's marketplace startup, and took that from Series A to Series C. And then the WeightWatchers role was an outreach to me by a recruiter. I was really enjoying Maisonette and growing it. And at first, when WeightWatchers reached out, I didn't really see the fit, because I was, had been a startup. I was like, I'm a startup CMO. That's kind of my ethos. That's my brand. And what really turned my head and got me in the door to have the interview was that the board had hired and brought on Seema Sistani to be the CEO February of last year, who was the CEO and co-founder of House Party. And so she, that really just signaled to me that this could be another great jungle gym move, because yes, it would be an environment where I could grow and learn and kind of do new things, but also, she coming from that same world would value that startup mentality and energy and way of thinking I could bring to the table. So took that first interview, and it was really kind of a strong connection from the moment we first spoke.
Well, I mean, it does sound like, the CEO was a big draw, and the what she was bringing to the table as well. Like, how did you know that the company could have, frankly, absorbed the two of you? Maybe that's the best way.
That's great. I love that. I'll have to tell her that. How could it absorb us? I think it was. I don't know. That was a question. That was definitely a question. I think. I think I find that exciting. One of the kind of lines, my kind of personal brand lines that are really near and dear to my heart, is that I thrive when I'm 10 steps out of my comfort zone. Like, I'm not interested in being somewhere where the outcome is certain or predetermined. determined, or it's kind of momentum that is driving the opportunity. So for me, it was attractive that combination of this heritage brand, the 60-year-old business, WeightWatchers is turning 60 this year, in a transformational moment in need of kind of transformation and evolution, and with a big opportunity if that happens, but certainly not a guaranteed thing, right? Needs the kind of energy and risk taking, and I think that's a great. Could the organization absorb that? Was definitely a question as I joined. But for me, coming in knowing that at the leader, the kind of SEMA at the helm, would give me the headroom and the support to try, right, and to kind of truly give it my 100% and believe in that way forward.
Yeah,
was what kind of really made it an attractive opportunity.
that makes sense. And just that also the nature, your personal brand of being 10 steps out of your comfort zone and taking a leap. Probably not everyone would have taken a leap, but glad you did.
Yeah. And it can be exhausting for that to be my personal brand, but it's kind of rooted in my personality. I've learned that about myself. And so I really use it as a filter for the opportunities. So that's where I'm going to do my best work. That's where I'm going to be most excited and bring my full self, and being an environment that has that opportunity, but also people who similarly feel that way and thrive in those moments. And it was really clear that SEMA brought that same energy.
Well, as you mentioned, it is a 60-year-old brand and organization. Where have you focused your energy in the time that you've been there so far?
Yeah, so I've been here 8 months, which in true fashion of it, feeling like it is a startup in transformational mode, feels like probably 2 years.
Yeah.
But has been 8 months. And I've had probably 3 big focus areas, I'd say. One, which, wouldn't be surprising based on what we just discussed, was organizational structure and culture. So a really, just huge movements and changes happening there, even before I came, right? So there was movement to make it more of a global centralized approach in general as a business before I joined, with SEMA at the helm. And before that, it had been a very decentralized approach to running. Like we're in many markets and across many countries, and there was GMs in all of those markets with kind of different functions reporting up into it. So there was a move to make it more centralized in general. And then with me coming in to think about how that was one of my first kind of mandates, was to think about how that would play out for marketing. And this was really important to work through quickly because of the fact that it was a time of transformation and rapid change, right? Obviously, a decentralized model can work. It's a business model that people employ, organizational model, but because of the moment we're in, where we want to evolve rapidly and kind of make bets and changes, that need for kind of that kind of ability to be nimble and move quickly, which does work much better in a centralized structure. So a lot of work around that, and how do I create what is the right structure for a global WeightWatchers marketing team? What does that look like? What are the roles? Redefining roles for people, the expectations I have. And really importantly, in line with that is the culture piece of that, right? So it's not just the kind of bone, I guess the organizational structure is the bones of it. And then the culture is kind of the meat you're putting on the bones of it, which is, the ways of working, and really bringing to people that sense of, as I mentioned, that startup energy, that we need to have an appetite for risk taking and bold moves, and that really working hard so that everyone at every level understands the strategy, so they can be the mini CMOs, be the entrepreneurs to drive change without it having to constantly ladder up and down for decision making. So that's been a real focus. A next place has been performance, rigor, and data-driven decision making, just kind of that modern marketing performance engine. They had a great data stack when I came, which was really great. We have a great chief data officer. So a lot of it was just acting on the data that we had, and taking, as I said before, bold moves and bold changes. We've really focused on optimizing on LTV to CAC, and taking that global perspective of where we should look at how to deploy that across countries or quarters or channels, and the way to create the most ROI, and kind of follow the data and the nimbleness of that. So there's the planning part of it, but also in the day-to-day of it, making changes, making redeployments in a really rapid manner, which was new to the team. And I'm really impressed with how they've adapted to that really quickly. We've seen great results from doing so. And then the final focus was really brands. There's an opportunity of creating a lot more brand relevance and dusting off old perceptions of this heritage brand, while still really embracing our status as a heritage brand and a leader in this category. So just really digging deep into what is our brand? Who is our consumer? What is our brand strategy wrapped around that? What's the history of this? That's something fun and new for me. Having been in startups before, it was all about building the founding story versus I did a lot of kind of exploration and diving back into the story of Nidetch, who was the OG female founder of WeightWatchers and the community she built, where she inspired millions of women like her to learn how to eat and have a healthy relationship with food to have weight loss and health outcomes. So that's been super fun. I'd say one real aha moment I had in that exploration from the brand for me was that WeightWatchers is the name of the community. It's the name of people, which is like one of those words, you know how words like lose their meaning almost when you use them too much?
Yeah.
WeightWatchers right now, it's like this corporate name to a lot of people, I think. They think of it as just the name of a company that was picked out of a hat. But for Jean, you were a Weight Watcher. People were Weight Watchers. It was about being a Weight Watcher and being a part of this community and being a part of that membership that was special. And people were proud to say, I'm a Weight Watchers and have that badge. And so really digging back into that ethos and the roots of that and how do we bring that into the modern brand?
Right. Well, I mean, to your point, like the fact that you had that rich history, you had a icon.
Yes,
the OG
an absolute icon.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot to work with, which is awesome. And it's always fun for me to see brands that kind of tap into the heritage to then find how they can kind of move and innovate from there again.
Yeah. And I think what's fun about Jean in particular is like the more you learn about her, the more she was so witty and relatable and fun. She was a housewife from the Bronx that created she created a movement that kind of became a company, Yes. And she would be so popular today, right? like she would fit right in. She was brash, she was bold, she would say what was on her mind. And, I think it would be different if you kind of went back in the history of Weight Watchers and found something that didn't feel as kind of such a great fit for, I think, the modern times. But it really is kind of, I feel like, unleashing some of that Nidetch energy that is very inspirational for us internally. And just like, how can we twist that, put some sparkle on it for the kind of modern world? But it was exciting to find how rich it was and how much there is to work with.
Well, who are you guys targeting today? Like, who are you focused on in the market?
Yeah, so that was one of my first day one questions. And I'm a super, as all marketers are, consumer oriented, focused on consumer driven business strategy. So my first question, that we have a wonderful head of insights and innovation here, was like, who's our consumer? And I think with a lot of big companies, which is great, but kind of she shared like, well, here's the segmentation, right? Here's kind of like 5 different targets we're going after, and it all makes sense. But for me, coming from startup world, and especially in this moment of transformation, I pushed really hard to get to, but who is that one description of the human that we're all building for, that we can rally a hand around, that we can like wrap our arms around and give a big hug and know that if we all understand this person across the entire company, not just for marketing, right? This is a target customer for the business, that we know we're going to be all building something special and unique for that person. So we did that work and we named her the Life Craver. And this is now used throughout the organization. It's a real rallying point central to our strategy. And, her motto is if you're going to do it, you might as well enjoy it. So she's really the go-to person for everyone in her life. She creates experiences for other people. She can sometimes struggle to prioritize herself. And for her, fuel is so much more than food. She really believes in the power of food to nourish and to heal, right? How it can connect people and celebrate people. It's woven into the fabric of her life in a really deep and meaningful way beyond kind of the kind of nutrition you get from it. She'll share her heritage with special recipes. She likes to create moments around the table with friends and family, right? If you think of the Life Craver as the person in your life that plans their vacations by thinking about, and doing the research of all the local food experiences they can have on vacation. So it's so much deeper. It's more a part of their self-identity than for other people. And the reason the Life Craver is kind of our target and why it's such a great relationship with Weight Watchers is she turns to us because our philosophy is that you can lose weight and still eat the foods you love, right? Nothing's off the menu at Weight Watchers. You don't have to shut down that core part of your self-identity. And a lot of our industry, what they'll do is try to minimize the kind of natural human joy of eating in order to
Right.
make dieting more appealing. You think of like a shake diet or something, right? Like that's
Right.
what, is
Right.
trying to make eating not enjoyable so that you will do it less. And for some people that could work, right? But for our life craver, that's really an identity crisis because so much of who they are as a person is wrapped up in these experiences around
Yes.
food in a good way, in a healthy way, in a way that humans' relationship with food is a kind of beautiful thing.
Right.
So that's who we're focused on, and really just helping the life craver feel what's possible, that you can improve your relationship with food and build sustainable, healthy habits while maintaining that love of food and the celebration of food, because that is what's going to make it feel livable, sustainable, and again, keep that core identity.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love the notion of the life cravers. I mean, I self-identify with that. I think my entire
Great.
family, my entire family would too. I mean, we're planning a trip right now to Spain, and it's all about where we're eating.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's like question number one in the quiz of
Yeah.
Are You a Life Craver?
Yes.
And that to me is such a great, to me, when my background actually before kind of all of this CMO and marketing was in consumer research. And that was always one of the criteria I had was like, does this feel, it has to feel like a real person, right? Like you, who comes to mind when we just, like when I describe that, this is exactly what you want to happen. When I describe this, you have to be like, okay, yes, my friend Jenny is, and my friend Sam is not, right? Like that,
Right.
it should be really clear. And then, you're onto something because those are real people and humans. You can, if you understand them, you can kind of reflect that back to them and make them feel seen and make sure your product, more importantly, and your offering is really meeting their unique needs.
Right. Well, and there's so much rich context too that you can leverage downstream in your marketing and the moments that you communicate around. I mean, there's so much there, I guess,
Yeah.
that you can work with. So it's amazing. And it's not just it is about the outcome, right? Like managing your weight, but it's through living life the way I want to live it.
Yeah. And
Which
that
is
was a gene insight. Again, it's not, the more we dug in, the more it was just like, right, bringing to life, I think, the truth that maybe had gotten not lost as much as
just a
hidden.
little dusty. Yeah.
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 Right. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of like boiling it down to
Right.
the kind of core of what is true. Cause that was always true for Jean, that was her message, right? It has to be livable. It has to be, this is hard. So why not have fun while we're doing it and have a little levity
Mm.
and recognize that for it to be a solution that works, it has to be something that fits within your life. And how you relate to food.
Love it. Well, if we go from the insight and the definition of the human that you're trying
Yes.
to reach, how are you bringing the brand to life today?
Yeah, so hopefully it won't surprise you and feel very intuitive. And actually, you're a great litmus test as a self-identified life craver. Is that right? We're taking this, thinking of the life craver and Jean as our inspiration. We're really focused on celebrating the love of food, which is super at odds of what you might expect a kind of brand in this space to do and kind of
Right.
weight loss and weight management. But that is what the craver is about. And like we want to say, we see you, and we're also going to show you how you can do that. And so you can eat the foods you love and still lose weight, which is what the program is about, right? So a lot of that in the marketing side of things, just doing kind of really focusing on food inspiration and food culture, bringing a more joyful and witty vibe to what we're doing. So I'll kind of give you some examples. We're taking in our campaign, the first kind of campaign I worked on that we launched in January. It's called Return to Feeling Good, and it kind of puts you in this situation where you're in a WeightWatchers store, as if we were a store that you could return things to, and it's taking all of these kind of expectations of what it's like to be on a weight loss journey that are a big turnoff to life cravers, like, or what diet culture kind of expects of you, which is like negative self-talk. So, right, when you're like, oh, I shouldn't eat this bread, it's so bad for me, or I shouldn't have that dessert, or the love-hate relationship with cookies, and that you should have that the hate part of it is what you should have. And we basically were like, you should return all of that. And really leaning into it was right after Christmas, and when everyone's
feeling a little full.
Yeah, a little full, a little bit of maybe overindulgence, and also that you're giving back all of your, returning all your gifts that you're, from your relatives giving you ties or socks. And so leaning into that, so it was the return to feeling good, was kind of like a metaphor of consumers who are kind of returning negative self-talk or a love-hate relationship with cookies, for example, saying, well, you can just return the hate. You know that, right? You can just love the cookies and still lose weight. So leaning into that, we unexpected partnerships has been a fun area to play in. So
Yeah.
we did a partnership with Baked by Melissa, which is a famous kind of mini cupcake company in New York City. And their cupcakes are kind of 1 or 2 points each. So we did a partnered on an exclusive pack you could buy. And the messaging to both of our communities was, eat a cupcake and still stay on track, period. Like just that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. That's allowed. That's actually part of what you do to stay on track is to allow yourself sometimes to have that cupcake. And that went over really well with both our communities, both in kind of the concept, but also the tone as, kind of being a little more, not edgy, but kind of witty, joyful, right? And then we've also been looking for inspiration and kind of what's happening in the world around, especially in social. Like, what are creators doing? Now that we have this focus on kind of celebration of food, there's so many amazing creators making food content, food or food related content on TikTok, on Instagram. So one great example is Nisha Godfrey, who had this trend that took off kind of, I feel like, was it the summer last year? I'm trying to remember when we did this, around chicken salad. She just like, she became basically TikTok famous from this. She was not famous at all, or didn't have a big following. It was just a video of her eating a chicken salad at her local shop and just like really enjoying it. And that pure joy, it just took off. People started making all these videos with the sound of what was the food for you that brings that simple joy. And so seeing that, that's our part of our strategy is like see that, identify that, and to sprinkle fame on these people who are a life craver and expressing the life craver joy of food. So we brought her in. We brought her into New York. She made a chicken salad recipe for us. We dropped it in the app and kind of made her famous by being a part of our world. And it was a great relationship, and people loved it. Like over 1 million views on our TikTok of that, and just got a lot of credit for engaging authentically with creators on that platform. Yeah. I'll say that the final one is a fun example because it really pushes the brand tone. Was we also made a TikTok filter that was an F, Marry, Kill of foods. That really took off. Like I think it was over 10,000 uses, not probably more. I haven't checked in a while, but it was people like couldn't stop doing it. Right. So it imagine above your head, it's like different foods popping up and you have to decide if you F, marry, or kill it. And people, that's the thing about food. People have like really strong emotions about this, like who they end up, right? Did you make the right decision? Did you marry too early? So that, I think that is such a human feeling, and playing into that, while again, making sure we're still bringing the underpinnings of it, which at the end of the day, we're celebrating this food to help you on your weight loss journey and health outcomes journey. So underpinning all of this and what we bring to the brand and the kind of the science-backed approach, right? So we have a science team, we have a chief scientific officer here, which a lot of people don't know, nutritionists, behavior change experts, and bringing them into our social world and our brand world, and making sure we're also providing easy to understand kind of the science that's driving the program as well.
Right. Well, I really love all those examples. One, and they're fantastic. And for somebody that identifies as a life craver, they work for me.
Great.
But I really love too the Baked by Melissa in particular, because it's about the choice, the decision that you're making. And the TikTok filter, as funny as it is, it's also like that, right? Like you're actually actively thinking about your choice, and in a silly way, but in a fun way. And they are passionate decisions, like, especially if you are a life craver. I have a lot of opinions about food, and I can't wait to eat dinner tonight with some friends. And it's going to be about the food and the drink and everything.
Yeah.
So those are amazing, and they reinforce that notion, I think, which is where you guys are at the intersection of the weight management solution, is the choices, right? And monitoring your choices over time and building those behaviors, et cetera.
We have, what's interesting as a brand builder is I'm able to lean like really heavily in one area with this brand and what I'm trying to do right now, because brand awareness is not the challenge. People know, right? You're like, do you know Weight Watchers? People are like, yes. Do you know what Weight Watchers is in the category of doing? Yeah, it's about weight loss and weight management. So that's what, like, the examples I'm giving you are not, they're in the context of people already having that information, right? Which is very different. Like it's not balanced, because that's not, I don't need to do the work of helping people, one, know that Weight Watchers exists, or two, know that we're in the business of or supporting members on their weight loss and weight management journeys. what I do need to do is break through in a new way with this kind of connection with Life Cravers, a celebration, unique positioning we have of celebrating food. So that's why, like, if you look at our whole kind of brand strategy and all the things we want consumers to know, the execution I'm going after isn't necessarily balanced across that, because part of this is like, part of that we're really well known for, and part of that we're really not. And it's actually something I have to break through with, right? Like we're not seen as modern. We're not seen as kind of like necessarily the place you'll go for, like, we're calling it like entertainment and like that. And so really we're pushing hard in that area because it's where we know we need to make the moves with the brand.
No, that makes perfect sense. And I mean, it's almost to a lot of extent the things that you're pushing the brand in the direction of is in many ways kind of zigging versus the category zag. And it's also differentiating, frankly, as well. As you described it earlier, the other solutions that are out there in the marketplace, they're not fun. Speaking again as a life craver myself, like I don't want to just drink shakes all day. That's so boring. Like I might want to shoot myself afterward.
And that works for some, and I think that's what, like, to me, a great target, and knowing it's your strategy is being clear, like that works for some people, and that's great.
Yeah.
It's just, and like, we also shouldn't be trying to, WeightWatchers shouldn't be trying to go after the kind of consumer who that works for, because that works for them, right? Like, it's like, what is our space? What is our unique, where are you creating that unique value relationship with that consumer? And so that, I think that was a lot of the work I've done the past 8 months, and kind of bringing the organization along on that tightening of focus. And I think the understanding, right? There's kind of, it doesn't mean other people are welcome to come, obviously, right? Like I said, there's people who are welcome to come. Our program will work for anyone, but that doesn't mean your target consumer, who you're really building that deepest relationship with, is everyone, right? It's like, you got to be focused and clear, as you said. Where is this? Who is that person where that light goes off and you're like, oh goodness, thank goodness, there's a way, this to meet my kind of weight loss goals, and that's the Life Craver for us.
And for those life cravers, giving them really clear, easy on-ramps with entertainment.
Yeah.
What did you call it?
Entertainment. Yeah, entertainment. Yeah. So like, so you're, like, when you think of our top of funnel, what's gonna kind of draw in the Life Craver is kind of what we call entertainment, where we're, again, it's like still healthful, right? The kind of, like, when we actually just started our first TikTok creator class, where we're finding amazing food creators in TikTok, and we're having them create recipes for us. And they're recipes that follow our program. We know the points, right? Like it's tips and tricks on how to make swaps so that your favorite foods are kind of more healthful, but it's still, it doesn't feel like you're watching How to Eat on a Diet. Right? It's not what a lifer wants to do. It's not what our mission, our perspective is, because we're trying to create something that's sustainable and livable for the Life Craver. It's not something you do and then kind of like stop, right? Like, this is a kind of way of life. And so that kind of the way in for them at that upper funnel is that, what they want. They want to watch like great recipes and enjoyable, right, how to celebrate your holidays, and kind of with food and kind of drink ideas. And so that leaning into that as kind of, as you said, as like a unique value proposition for us as a brand versus others in the category.
Yeah. Well, you talked about the creator class that you're starting on TikTok. What else? What's next? Where are you going with your marketing?
What's so many things. So the creator class is something that we've spun up and has been really exciting and fun. We're also starting to bring this new brand perspective to IRL. So we're going to be doing a WeightWatchers Carnival coming up, where you can just imagine, right? It's like taking all of the kind of like science elements and kind of hardworking parts of our program, but making them fun with like carnival games and ways of winning things. Like, we have 200 0 points foods on our program. So how do we make that really interesting as a part of this carnival experience? And we'll be bringing into that our creator class and making sure it feels digital and social and has a lot of reach. So excited. That's kind of our first foray into learning how kind of an in-person experience is going to work for us. Our 60th anniversary is coming up in the spring, which is really amazing. So thinking about how, as I talked about earlier, this is a moment to really lean into Jean, bringing her life and her story out in the open. I just think it's this untold story of an OG female entrepreneur that doesn't really get the credit for it. So how do we celebrate her? And also celebrate the millions of members that have been a part of this community over the 60 years and made it possible. So thinking of how do we make it feel like a celebration of our members and where they're really getting value out of it is a focus. And then I'd say the final one is tied to something I talked about earlier. And, Seema's focus as, actually, I don't know if we touched on this, right? Her background is in product, kind of digital innovation and kind of digital communities. And so she's, along with the brand evolution I've spoken a lot about, is a real focus on the digital product evolution at WeightWatchers as well. Like a huge transformation happened, or a huge shift, I guess, mix shift happened at WeightWatchers during the pandemic, going from kind of majority in person to majority digital.
Yeah.
And so I think our product experience really hadn't kind of been kind of caught up with that yet. And so I think there's just a lot of opportunity on the roadmap kind of for product innovation and that experience. And that what that enables is then a lot of opportunity for product marketing.
Right.
And really figuring out, which hasn't been done a lot at Watchers, and really kind of honing that skill set on the team of how do we, obviously a lot of what I talked about is a higher level brand engagement than kind of performance marketing expertise, but the product marketing of how do we speak about exciting features within our app that enable you on your journey? Like what does that look like in our marketing, and how do we bring that kind of real utility of what we will be launching to the market in a way that feels fun and interesting and engaging? So that's something I'm excited about that will be kind of a new skill set to build up on the team.
Yeah, definitely a new layer to the marketing mix component for sure. Well, this has been awesome, and I've enjoyed getting to know Weight Watchers and what you're doing with the brand, how you're refreshing it, getting the company moving in a modern way. One of the things we always love to do on the show is to kind of get back behind the microphone again, beyond the horse story, and learn a little bit more about you as a person. And frankly, knowing now that you're a psychology background, my favorite question as a psychology background person myself is, has there been an experience of your past that defines and makes up who you are today?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, the psychologist in me says many experiences define who I am. But yeah, I think for me, definitely a defining moment was that I had cancer right after college. I had Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is obviously an experience to be had that young. And how that's impacted me is just the perspective I got from having that type of experience that young, and how I react to stressors in kind of life and in work. And it's given me a unique strength that is like very notable. Like I hear this, like when peers talk about me at work, like it's very consistent. It's always like the calm in the storm, or the person you want with you on a desert island, like that just sense of, I've been through something really serious. And so it's going to take a lot to get me worked up in terms of that kind of like high stress energy. So for me, I just bring that kind of like a calmer, we can do that. What someone else said, yeah, like I'm like a duck, like, right. The like kind of like calmly gliding, but like, they're like, you must be furiously paddling under there. Like why? So my head of brand, that I hired recently, like 4 months ago, she was saying this to me recently. She's like, are you as calm as you seem? Cause I don't really see how that's possible. I'm like, yeah, just that's my vibe.
I have never heard that analogy of a
You
duck.
haven't? You haven't heard the duck analogy? Yeah.
No, I love it though. Because you definitely know those people that just like kind of like sail along. And I love the notion of like you just working your little feet off, if you will. So I like that. Well, I'm glad that that I'm sure fairly traumatic experience that led to this resiliency and duck composure.
Yes, duck composure. We will coin it now.
Yeah. If you were starting this journey all over again, is there any advice you'd give to your younger self?
Yeah, I don't know about this journey. I guess the jungle gym person in me, I just is like, it's always like, follow the opportunities, I don't like to overly kind of course correct what happened. When I was thinking about this, to me, it's one thing I wish I had stuck with that I think is just like a healthy habit in general was journaling. I used to journal when I was a kid. It's like one of those things that if you keep with it, you'll always do it, but it's so hard to start once you have an adult. Once you're, just like, once you're not yet, I have like two young kids, like,
right.
just the job. It's just but I think it's such a wonderful, wonderful habit that I wish Sabi like stick with the journaling, kids. That's my advice.
I love it. I love it. Well, a few last kind of marketing-ish questions. Is there a topic that you're trying to learn more about as a marketer, or you think other marketers should be learning about?
Yeah, I think, I think for me in this role, but also all marketers now in this remote work world, I think it's still like a totally new world. Like at WeightWatchers, at least we're fully remote. We do have an office, we can come in, but we're mostly remote. And I just think, how do we, especially in marketing, how do you still foster creativity in a flat hierarchy of ideas in this digital world? I find that that particular bit of marketing, which is so critical, is more natural in a physical environment. And I'm really thinking through how, as I build out the culture of my team, how can I be more intentional about building that in a remote working environment, especially when you have big teams. I'm used to having smaller teams, which was easier to manage that. How do you do that in kind of these big teams that are now also remote?
Yeah.
Is something that, I just think we'll need new tools and new ways of working.
Yeah, that is a difficult one. And I struggle with that myself. And I think there's certain tasks and certain sizes of teams that you can do remote. But to your point, like it doesn't always fit.
Yeah.
And so I haven't found the silver bullet myself yet, but I think there's times where it's like we have to be together. Like it's just, we have to make it work somehow and schedule around that, if you will. But yeah, it's a tough one. It's a very tough one. Well, are there brands or companies or causes you personally follow or you think other people should be taking notice of?
A really timely one, which has always been a favorite brand of mine, is the Farmer's Dog, who is kind of a startup. I mean, they've been around for a while. It's they do kind of fresh human grade food for pets, but I think it's a great story that they had a Super Bowl ad and they won the USA Today ad meter kind of for kind of the consumer favorite versus all these big brands with big budgets. And it was in-house. They didn't even really make it to be a Super Bowl ad. They just like made a really beautiful, poignant, authentic video about like the true kind of why they founded this, which is about the special relationship between dogs and humans. And they're like, this is so good, we should put it on the Super Bowl. And I just think, one, I think they're an amazing brand and like really, really, if anyone who has animals, I think I recommend them. We use them I have 2 dogs, but also just I find them to be so true to the founding story. I know the founders, I've met them, and just so authentic and stay true to themselves every step of the way, which I think is something to be admired.
That's awesome. Well, the last question for you. What do you think is the largest opportunity or threat facing marketers today?
Yeah. I don't know if it's the largest, got a caveat. I'm always caveat. I'm like, I don't know if it's the largest, but I think an interesting opportunity is marketing leaders working to establish our unique value as independent board members. It's something I'm starting to think about, not for now, but it's like thinking of my jungle gym. It's like, another thing I could start learning about is board members. And traditionally, independent board members are basically finance or operations leaders. And there's not as much valued in the marketing leader on the board perspective, which I think is a huge miss in terms of what a marketer can bring with our customer obsession, our understanding of customer-driven business strategy. I think a lot of that is just misperceptions of marketers as kind of bringing in the traffic, or figuring out what the brand is, as opposed to, the great CMOs today it's consumer-driven business strategy and how that connects across the full organization. And that's of real value in kind of today's world of kind of brand building and business building. And I think, I'm not sure what the solution is. Is how do we build? It's like we need to establish like a new brand for CMOs, and a brand that is kind of clear on the value we would bring at the board level.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And if you haven't, maybe I'll send this to you after the fact, but I did an interview. I think we talked about her research, but a woman named Kim Whitler, who's a UVA business school professor. She studied this exact thing, right? Like board composure and the presence or lack thereof of marketing experience on the board and the correlated impact that the companies have. And companies outperform when they have marketing experience, and it's tiny and infinitesimal on
there
today's
you go.
board, right? Yeah, but it's fascinating research and kind of proof that there is some experience missing at the board level for sure. And we're starting to see some headway. I think like the executive recruiters I talk to that and work in this space, there's definitely more of an appetite for marketers on boards. And I think it started through the lens of digital transformation and all of that jazz. But I think it is creeping into, understanding that like to grow, we need this skill set in the boardroom. And especially as we're evaluating the company's plans and things like that. So yeah, more to come on that. But that is, I wholeheartedly agree. And I was just talking to another CMO recently about this and mentioned Kim's research as well. So I'm giving her a lot of play, Kim, if you're out there listening.
Yeah, we got to all get in a room and make our personal CMO brand statement that we got to
exactly
figure out how to, because we know, it's like we all know the value we could bring. We just need everybody else who's picking the board members and recruiting the board members to get on board here.
Yeah, exactly. We got to do some marketing of marketing a little bit.
We should be good at that though, right?
We should. We should. Well, Amanda, it's been great. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Hi, it's Alan again. Marketing Today was created and produced by me with post-production support from Sam Robertson. If you're new to Marketing Today, please feel free to write us a review on iTunes or your favorite listening platform. Don't forget to subscribe on marketingtodaypodcast.com. Tell your friends and colleagues about the show. I love hearing from listeners. You can contact me at marketingtodaypodcast.com. There you'll also find complete show notes and links to what was discussed in the episode today, and you can search our archives. I'm Alan Hart, and this is Marketing Today.